All right, folks, we're going to have the next speaker come up, which is Andrew Garcia from NJCCIC. So, here you go.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to start off. I'm not going to speak more on NJCCIC. We've heard from the director, deputy director, and our previous presenters about it. So instead, I'm going to start off, speaking about my story, where I started off. I know I spoke to a handful of students so far already, and that's a common question. How did I start? How did I come into this? So yeah, I'm just going to start there. So, fun fact, computer science and cybersecurity was not my first choice. I know that I love hearing stories of other people saying, oh, I'm business, I'm this, and then now they want to get into IT and security. Love those stories. So first, I went to St. Francis University. I played soccer there, so I was an athlete before I was a mathlete. That was my first choice. Also, I got accepted into the engineering program there. I was going to do a 2-year program, where 3 years at St. Francis and then play it 2 years at Penn State. But I quickly realized that trying to balance soccer and also engineering was a hard thing to do. So my fallback then was computer science. And I'm very lucky and fortunate that that was my fallback then. So coming out of college, I ended up getting injured. Didn't go back in my 5th year for soccer, and got into the work. Partially because cybersecurity is very wide. There's so much to learn, so many little niches to get into. So whenever there's opportunity, I would hop on it. So a little bit from when I started, I came in, I was doing email security, and then I bounced around, did some network discovery, did some endpoint detection, and then I ended up getting my certified forensic examiner from SANS, and I led our forensics efforts into that. And then from there, I ended up getting my GCID for certified incident handler. And there was an opportunity for a new position on, offensive security at our agency. And just like all other times I bounced around, I was like, yes, let me challenge myself. Let's get into it. And so one of the first tasks that I was tasked with is trying to find out a way how to get past 2-factor authentication. Nowadays, everybody's saying, oh, you need 2-factor, everything's great, you just need to push this out. Agencies, and also I heard from someone recently that here, you guys use Gmail, you guys implemented 2-factor authentication, that's all great. And when I speak to other people who think about 2-factor and trying to bypass, they always think about like, oh, well, yeah, the token is only valid for, or your code is only valid for 5 minutes or a minute. And that's kind of the misconception with this type of situation. And yeah, it all depends on how you're retrieving the data, how your attack is. But what I'm going to go over today is a technique that I came across, and it is very effective. So yeah, let's get into it. Now, before I get into the details of this, I must start with a disclaimer. One of my favorite quotes of all time is from Spider-Man, "With great power comes great responsibility." That hits home. That is just something that always stuck with me. It doesn't matter if you're help desk support all the way up to now you have secret clearance, whatever. There's always a way. There's always maybe sensitive information or nefarious things that could be done. So with great power comes great responsibility. I don't want to find out later that I don't want to be called back up here, have to do forensics, and find out that somebody tried using this technique illegally. So if you do try and do this is for educational purposes only. Do it to yourself to learn, and you know, if you don't have any legal written consent to do this, you know, just watch out. So overview of this, I'm going to touch on a couple of things before I get into the main topic at the bottom. I used AWS for majority of the infrastructure. So I had an EC2 instance, Ubuntu. You can use a free instance for this if you want, unless you're bougie like me and you want to upgrade to a large or medium. I used Route 53 for our domain, the AWS domain service, and also Amazon SCS, simple email service. Next is the Gophish framework. I'll touch that in a little bit, and then EvilGenX 2, which is the MITM Attack framework. So here, this is Amazon Route 53. This is very easy to do. If you want to start phishing, anything like that, you need a domain. So easy to register a domain in AWS, in Route 53. As you can see here in this example, I created domain NJCCIC, you know, trying to, let's say, phish somebody NJCCTF.com. So this was a domain that I registered, and then below it you can see that I have some DNS records in there, so you can see Microsoft.jerseycif.com, account.microsoft, login.microsoft. As you can kind of see, a little bit of foreshadowing here, that looks like it might be phishing a Office 365 account. Here's part of Amazon's simple email service. In order to start sending mail, you need to verify your identity. And in this case, since we already registered our domain in AWS, we're going to identify our domain here, and it's very simple because it's all under one umbrella. So all I do is put in the domain jerseycif.com, and then another feature, once you click next, is configuring your DKIM and SPF, everything like that. So by default, as soon as you click next, AWS will make it that much easier. With 3 clicks, you already have DKIM records, and they will actually go into your Route 53 and submit those records there on your behalf. This is the Gophish phishing framework. Here, this is used for, you know, metrics. Really good for the executive summary reports. If you have a large agency, you would want to see who's clicking, who's actually submitting data, things like that, and report that up, and you know, maybe they need additional trainings, things like that. Another good thing with this is creating email templates. You can either import email, so let's say I have access to somebody else's email for red teaming purposes or whatever, and a threat actor could extract that and import the email here, make it seem like you're replying to that thread, email thread. Or you can be fancy and code up in HTML your own email so that it looks legit. Here, you can, in Gophish, you can create your own landing pages as well. So here, you can put in the domain, and you can either grab the source code from an existing web page or create your own and import it there. And it's as simple as that. You can have a phishing page, landing page, that you can use in this case. So, the man-in-the-middle attack. This is the main purpose of this talk. EvilGenX is the framework that I'm using for this. It's a man-in-the-middle framework, and what happens here is the victim, when they click on the malicious link, they will be sending a request to the EvilGenX server. As you can see, the login.microsoft.whatever your domain is, and the EvilGenX server would forward that to the actual Microsoft 365 server. That's important. I'll explain why in a little bit. But from there, EvilGenX will analyze those response packets, capture session cookies, and forward that HTTP response to the victim. So going back to the reason why it's important that it's going to and authenticating to the official Microsoft server is because, let's say an organization has a splash page in the background or anything like that. Sometimes that is a telltale sign that you may be on the phishing link, that you put in your name and then you don't see that splash page and you're like, okay, what's going on here? So it's actually going to the official Microsoft server and forwarding that data to the user. So in EvilGenX, when you actually run it, you'll be presented with some Phishlets. Phishlets are configurable YAML file. The Phishlets are meant to specify certain parameters like subdomains or certain authentication tokens that you want to grab. And as you can see here, this is right out of the box that comes with. So you have WordPress, Amazon, O365, PayPal, GitHub, and the likes. So this is a very plug and play type of thing here. Now, I will say, in my first attempt at doing this, it didn't grab the session tokens, and later I found out that it's because the YAML file that's by default was not configured right. And I actually found a resource out there that had the YAML file, and all I did was copy and paste it, and you should definitely take a look at this link. This guy has a very good resource on it. He didn't use AWS, he used something else. So if you're not used to AWS building that out, there's another option there. So I'm gonna show, of course I want to do a live demo, but of course, the curse of doing something live, something will go wrong. So I did a recording, and I want to demonstrate how easy, quick and easy something like this is. Even though you may think it's very hard, I'm also a visual learner myself, so I want to give some visuals for you guys. So I'm gonna kind of talk through as this video's going. So we're on the EvilGenX GitHub on the right side, and all I do is I just copy and paste the initial git command so I can clone the repository. And then next, I just run the sudo EvilGenX and -p Phishlets, and we're in. So we need to configure EvilGenX to our domain and IPs first. So here we're doing configure domain, and we're going to our DNS records and our Route 53, and we're grabbing Microsoft.NJCCIC.com. And then now we need to configure the IP. And the IP is going to be your instance that you're running this on. And then we're going to go into Phishlets. Here we're going to give the Phishlet a host name, which is going to be the initial domain that we're using here. And so once you configure that, the Phishlet is disabled by default. So then now we're going to enable this Phishlet. And when you enable it, it will automatically generate a certificate using Let's Encrypt. So now you will have HTTPS, and there we go, seeing that the Phishlet for Office 365 is enabled. And so from here, we need to create the phishing URL. So we use lures create O365, and that will create the URL. And so we're checking to see how many, let's say if you scale this up, there can be 10 different URLs there. So in order to grab it, you do lures get URL and then the ID number, which is 0. And there we go. It's that easy, up and running, have a phishing URL that we can, test in our organizations or any other red team engagement. So now let's look at from the user's perspective. They click the link. I will admit it is maybe a second or two slower, but it could also be the VPNs that I was using. So there we go. We're putting in email, and at the top you can see the domain Microsoft.JerseyCif.com, and it's reaching out to the legitimate Microsoft server. And there you go. just like a splash page I was talking about earlier, that some places may have it. I chose to do the authentication through the app, the two-factor, and it should be presented in. Sometimes in other phishing scenarios, if you put in your credentials and you think that you put in right, then it'll say, hey, log in again, it was incorrect or whatever, or you never actually get into your account. And that's a way that a user may start to be suspicious, like, hey, what's going on here? How come I can't log in? In this, because it's going to the official Microsoft server, it logs you in and you can actually start browsing as if you were logged into the legitimate server. Now on the red team side or the attacking side, this is what you will see when somebody connects. You will, as soon as somebody clicks the link, you will see a log saying, hey, you have a new visitor. From there, you go into it, there are different sessions. So let's say if you have 10 people that click on the link, you have 10 sessions. So you go in just like with the lures, you do session, in this case it's 5, the ID is 5. And in here, we can see username and password, and we can see that highlighted is captured in the token. So what's important here is, one, we do have an IP address. So I'll touch on that later. Just remember that about the IP address. And then also at the bottom that's obfuscated is the session token. Now that is in JSON format. This is what makes this attack work. So what do you do from there as the attacker or red teamer? So you would simply download a cookie editor browser extension. Now you go to the official Microsoft website, you go to login, you clear out whatever cookies you have there, and then you import it. And then all you do is refresh the page. That easy. Now, I'm going to give a video right here to show how quick and easy that step is to bypass the two-factor. Here we go. On the left, grabbing the JSON format, and on the right is the official Microsoft website. And in here, there are some cookies there, so I'm going to delete it. We go to import, paste that JSON in, and all we do, there's the authentication tokens that are actually identified in the Phishlets. And there we go. We are in bypass without needing to put in the username or password or their two-factor code. It's that simple. And sometimes actually showing how simple something like this is kind of raise awareness into that. And so let's talk about detection. It's hard to detect anomalous logins without a huge number of false positives. Going back to looking at logs, trying to see what can be identified. Location. There's some like impossible traveler. Maybe I am logging in New Jersey, and then within an hour somebody's logging in Cali. That's impossible traveler right there. So that would raise some flags. But like I said, the attacker now has the IP of the user, right? So from there, or as an attacker, could try to get as close geolocation to that to try and not trigger any alerts of impossible traveler, anything like that. Also, carrier, maybe a carrier, if your employees are using a certain carrier, that can sometimes be a little bit harder to duplicate. And then session IDs, if you're going back and there is like a threat actor inside, or that there's some malicious activity, these logs do have session IDs. So if you want to correlate anything back to a specific login, it has that session ID there. And so because it's kind of hard to detect, what's really relied on is what happens after somebody gets access. Now, threat actors will try and create mailbox rules. So let's say if I have access to a user's mailbox and I start spraying out emails, I may put in rules to either move or delete those replies, or those replies will be forwarded to my secondary account. From there, a threat actor could also enroll device, and then also huge, as you can see, logging in is a lot of data, a lot of information. So exfiltrating of data. These are things that you can put in rules to try and detect. So this is probably the easiest way to detect this is, unfortunately, after somebody has access to an account. So protection. After going down the rabbit hole, seeing what a lot of other people are talking about this, implementing phishing-resistant MFA solutions such as YubiKeys. I've also saw that Windows Hello for Business or certificate-based authentication for users. While YubiKeys is a very good option, this may not be practical for all users. It should be considered for higher risk users, users with admin privileges or to sensitive applications, things like that. Those users should have YubiKeys. Another big thing is identifying the life of your session tokens in your environment. By default, Microsoft has it set to 90 days. So if I have that token, I can be in and out of your account for 90 days and not worry about a thing. So that is very scary, very dangerous. Being able to identify what that is in your company, in your organization, maybe toning that down to what feels right for you. Also, one good protection for this is, the managed device versus unmanaged device. Putting in a policy to only allow successful authentication from managed devices. Devices that your organization or your company actually own. So that will cut out all these other people who are logging in from, whatever other device other than a managed device. So I think that is a very good option for protecting against this type of attack. I believe that is it for me for this. I would like to open up for any questions. Be nice with them, be easy. But thank you guys for having me. But I would like to open up for any questions if there are any. All right. I believe I'm hearing none, making it easier on me. All right, well, thank you guys so much for having me. It's truly an honor to be here, and good luck to everybody else in the competition.